You now have the power no man has ever wielded. You will have an empire unassailable, Rhaenyra. And our children will rule it forever and a day.
All that remains is for you to decide what you want from this war.
You will do things that your heart would have recoiled from before you came to the throne.
The Targaryens are a savage race.
We act with holy purpose to restore a rightful king.
I'm going to kill my brother or die in the attempt.
Draw your sword.
Look to the sky. Doom and ruin surround us. We will all become beasts before our end.
It is no longer safe here. There will be no doubt who the gods have chosen to rule.
Hey guys, it's Ernest here. Welcome back to My Crazy Eye, and I have to say this right from the beginning. This is probably my favorite season of House of the Dragon so far.
More dragons, more battles, more victories, more losses, and honestly, more trauma, especially for Rhaenyra. Watch till the end of the video to find out how Rhaenyra gets to die, definitely in Season 4 and some revealed Easter eggs as we go on. Make sure to like and subscribe if you find the video insightful, which I bet you would. Let's head on. There's something about this season that I think we need to talk about. Because beneath all the dragons, deaths, betrayals, and people making terrible decisions, there are actually some serious lessons hiding inside this season. And by the end of this video, we're going to talk about Helena's final embroidery, Daeron's mysterious disappearance, Rhaenyra's terrifying transformation, and the clue that may already be telling us exactly how Rhaenyra's story ends. So stay with me, because that final embroidery? I don't think that thing was there just for decoration. Let's start with something I kept thinking about throughout this season. Cherish what you have now. Because House of the Dragon has basically spent 3 seasons showing us what happens when people don't. Look at Aegon. He had the crown. He had power. He had King's Landing. And now, he loses almost everything. He's injured. He's humiliated. He's forced to flee King's Landing. And suddenly the crown that everyone was killing for doesn't look so attractive anymore. And then there's Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra has spent so much of her life feeling like she was the one who got left behind. She wanted a dragon. She wanted to be valued. She wanted to prove that she belonged. And finally, she gets one. She claims Sheepstealer, the moment she's been waiting for. And you'd think this would be the happiest moment of her life. But House of the Dragon doesn't work like that. Of course not. Because now she has the dragon, but she has to learn that having power doesn't mean you automatically know how to control it. And that brings us to another tragedy involving Rhaenyra's family and Joffrey. The Targaryens keep getting exactly what they think they want, and then paying a horrifying price for it. That's basically the entire Targaryen family tree. Want a crown? Here's a war. Want a dragon? Here's trauma. Want power? Congratulations, you've just made 20 new enemies. But there are some big questions coming out of this season. And one of them involves Aemond and Alis, and those dragon eggs at Harrenhal. Because seriously, what exactly is happening there? Could Aemond actually conceive a child with Alis at Harrenhal? Could those dragon eggs become important to their future? And what exactly is Alis trying to accomplish? The show has deliberately left some of this mysterious. And if you've read Martin's book, Fire and Blood, you already know that the road ahead for Aemond gets extremely dark. Eventually, Daemon and Aemond are destined for that legendary confrontation above the God's Eye, and neither of them walks away from it. But here's the thing. The show hasn't necessarily shown us exactly how every piece is going to fall into place. And that's what makes Season 4 so interesting, because there are still pieces moving around the board. And one of the biggest pieces is Daeron. Where is Daeron? Seriously, where is this man? Season 3 leaves his fate hanging after the chaos at Tumbleton. And that's important, because in the book, Daeron's story ends in the chaos surrounding Tumbleton, but his body is never found. And when you leave a character like that unresolved in a television show, you already know what the fandom is going to do. Theory time. Maybe he's alive. Maybe he's hiding. Maybe the writers are deliberately keeping his fate ambiguous. Or maybe they're saving something for season 4. Personally, I think completely writing Daeron off-screen would be a massive waste. Because we've waited this long to actually see this character become part of the story. Why introduce him, build him up, and then basically say, okay, never mind. No, I don't buy it. And now we need to talk about Helaena, because this woman left us one of the creepiest clues of the entire season. Her embroidery. At first, it looks like another strange piece of Helena's prophetic artwork. But then she finishes it. And suddenly, we can see what she's been trying to tell us. We see a woman falling. We see the Iron Throne. We see dragons, fire, blood, and Rhaenyra sitting at the center of it all. And this is where I think season 4 could get very interesting. Because the embroidery doesn't simply scream, Rhaenyra dies by fire. It's more complicated than that. It looks like a picture of Rhaenyra's entire fate. Power, fire, blood, death, and the Iron Throne that she fought so desperately to obtain may ultimately become the thing that destroys her. And if you've read Fire and Blood, you already know where this story is heading. Rhaenyra eventually reaches Dragonstone, and her reign comes crashing down. The book's version of her death is brutal. Aegon II has her fed to Sunfire, and the queen who spent so much of her life fighting for the throne is ultimately destroyed by the very creatures that made her believe she was destined to rule. So when I look at Helena's embroidery, I don't just see a prediction of death. I see a warning. And the scary part? Rhaenyra may already be ignoring it. Because look at what she has become. Remember the woman we started this story with? Now look at her. She finally gets the throne. And instead of becoming more secure, she becomes more dangerous. And this brings me to what might be one of the most important scenes of the entire season. Rhaenyra wants the High Septon to recognize her authority. He refuses. And what happens? She has him killed. Now, that is not just another violent scene. That is a political statement. Rhaenyra is basically saying, I don't need your approval. I don't need the faith. I don't need the old rules. I am the authority. And that's where I started thinking about Cersei. Remember when Cersei was backed into a corner by the faith militant? She eventually used wildfire to destroy the High Sparrow and everyone standing in her way. Rhaenyra's situation is obviously different, but the symbolism is fascinating. Both women reach a point where the traditional institutions standing between them and absolute power become obstacles. And instead of backing down, they destroy the obstacle. But Rhaenyra's situation goes even deeper, because she's not simply claiming political authority. She's beginning to believe that she has a divine responsibility. She invokes the prophecy. She speaks of the Targaryen bloodline. She talks about the doom, the conqueror, the threat from the north. The idea that her family was somehow chosen to protect the realm. And that's where I think Daemon's vision becomes really important. Because remember what happened with Daemon at Harrenhal. He sees the future. He sees the darkness coming. He sees the threat beyond the wall. And eventually, he understands that Rhaenyra has a role to play in that future. And for Daemon, that vision changes everything. He finally bends the knee. He finally understands that his ambition has to become secondary to something bigger. But here's the tragedy. What if Rhaenyra understood the vision completely differently? Daemon sees destiny as a burden, a responsibility, something that requires sacrifice. But Rhaenyra? She may be starting to see destiny as proof that she is superior, that she is chosen, that she is above the rules. And that's terrifying. Because once someone believes they are chosen by destiny, what happens when someone tells them they're wrong? Do they listen? Or do they destroy them? And that's exactly what we're seeing. Rhaenyra is no longer simply fighting for a crown. She's beginning to believe that the crown proves she was always meant to have it. And that is a very dangerous place for any ruler to be, because there's another detail I really loved. Her use of High Valyrian. She's not simply speaking the language because it sounds cool. It reinforces the idea that she's increasingly embracing her Valyrian identity. The old blood, the old dragon lords, the old dream. She isn't presenting herself as just another Westerosi queen. She's presenting herself as a Targaryen ruler with a destiny that she believes goes beyond ordinary laws. And that creates a fascinating contradiction, because she claims she is doing all of this to save the realm. But the more she believes she is the realm's savior, the more ruthless she becomes. And that might be the real tragedy of Rhaenyra. She may genuinely believe she's becoming the hero of the story, while slowly turning herself into the villain. And then we reach Helaena, because Helaena is probably the one person who sees through all of this. She has visions. She understands things other people don't. And by the end of the season, she's gone. Her death leaves Rhaenyra with one final message. That embroidery, a queen on the throne, fire everywhere, blood, hands reaching toward her. And Rhaenyra looks at it, and what does she do? She closes the window. She walks away. And honestly, that might be the most important part, because the warning was right in front of her. But she doesn't want to hear it. And isn't that exactly what House of the Dragon has been telling us from the beginning? People don't lose everything because they don't know the truth. They lose everything because they refuse to accept it. Aegon refused to let go of the crown. Aemond refuses to let go of power. Daemon spends years struggling with his own ambition. Rhaenyra refuses to accept that destiny may demand sacrifice. And now, she's walking directly toward the fate Helaena already saw. So when Season 4 arrives, I don't think the biggest question is going to be, will Rhaenyra win? I think the question is, what will winning actually cost her? Because if the show continues following the broad trajectory of fire and blood, Rhaenyra's story is heading toward one of the most brutal endings in the entire Targaryen saga. And that embroidery may have already shown us the destination. We just haven't reached it yet. So, Season 3 was not just about who won battles. It was about what happens when people finally get the things they've spent their entire lives chasing. Aegon got the crown, and lost everything else. Rhaenyra got her dragon, and discovered that power comes with consequences. Rhaenyra got closer to absolute power, and started losing the very humanity that made people want her to rule. And Helaena? She may have understood the whole game before everyone else. Which brings us to Season 4. There are still so many questions. Where exactly is Daeron's story going? What happens to Aemond and Alice? What happens now that Daemon and Aemond has finally met? What happens to Rhaenyra? And most importantly, will Rhaenyra finally understand what Helaena was trying to tell her? Because if that embroidery really is showing us her future, we may already know how this ends. We just don't know how painful the road is going to be. And that's why I'm actually excited for Season 4. Because at this point, the dance of the dragons isn't just getting bigger. It's getting darker. So tell me, what did you think of Season 3? What was your favorite episode? Which Easter egg did you catch? Do you think Daeron is still alive? Do you think Helena's embroidery is literally predicting Rhaenyra's death? And do you think Rhaenyra has finally crossed the line? Or do you still believe she's doing what she has to do? I want to hear your arguments. Because you already know, the comments section is where the real dance of the dragons begins.
Soon they will not even remember what it was that began the war in the first place.
I'm Ernest, this is My Crazy Eye. Like the video, subscribe, turn on the notifications bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.